We are here with Anthony Corder. Before we get started, we have a little public service announcement. If you live in Cincinnati, Ohio, Richmond, Indiana, or Braidwood, Illinois, this is for you. You need to listen up. Friday, February 3rd, that is this Friday, Anthony Corder and Tony Harnell from TNT will be playing a double bill at the MVP in Cincinnati, Ohio. Saturday, February 4th, at the Firehouse in Richmond, Indiana, they will be playing an acoustic show there, so make sure you get your tickets. And finally, Sunday, February 5th, at the Top Fuel Saloon in Braidwood, Illinois. That is an afternoon show, right, Anthony?
Yeah, early show. It's going to be really fun. Man, I'm so excited about these shows. I hope everybody will come out and join us. Tony said we did some shows at the end of last year together, and he sounds amazing. His voice is so great, and his set's really fun. He does the things you want to hear, the hits, and he does some deep dive songs that surprises everybody from his catalog. And then he also throws in a couple of curveballs, which I'm not going to give away right now, but it's awesome. And
So,
so we enjoy it. We have a really good time together. So I was a huge fan of his a long time ago, and so to get to work with him now is really awesome. He's a cool
so,
cat.
all those ticket links are going to be in the description, so you have no excuse if you live anywhere near those places to not be there because I'm making it so much
Yes,
easier for
man.
you.
You
You
guys,
better be there.
anybody reach out to us, toratoramusic.com, or you can go on any of our social media platforms. It's the band. We're all on there, cruising around, checking messages. You can direct message me. I'll be happy to direct you to a place to get the tickets.
So you said you were a big fan of Tony's. How did you actually like first end up meeting him? When was that you first met?
We met here in Nashville. We met during the kind of as COVID was opening up when people were kind of starting moving back around. We had kind of had, uh, similar groups of people that were running around, and I just hadn't actually sat down and hung out with them. But we just got together and we talked. This was early before these shows, and we talked about doing some shows together. But we just said, hey, when the right opportunity pops up, that'd be fun if we're both doing acoustic things. So, and I remember my band guys kind of turned me on to TNT. They were listening to them, 10,000 Lovers and all those kind of songs. And I just remember hearing them and going, wow, this guy's voice is insane and crazy. And, kind of dug around a little bit. But it's lots of fun. There's a lot of people here in Nashville that are from that
Yeah.
era. They kind of all migrated this way from New York and California. It was a little bit less expensive to live, I think, and the infrastructure is all here. Excuse me. The record
Okay.
labels, management companies, booking agencies, digital marketing firms. I mean, Music Row up there is stacked full, and the industry kind of has spread out all over the city and out in the suburbs and stuff where it's just great. It's centrally located, so you can get anywhere really quick, man. If you're touring or playing or want to get out and make a run somewhere, this is a great place to be, stationed out of. And I've loved it. I've been here about 18 years, I think, this year.
Oh
So
wow.
I migrated up from Memphis. I grew up in Memphis, of course, and uh, or at least from a music background. I'm originally from down in the Delta in Mississippi, and my dad worked for an airline, and we kind of moved around the country as he was working his way up the corporate ladder. So I went up to South Dakota and down to Houston, Texas, down to southern Mississippi. We were kind of backtracking, trying to get ourselves close to home. And he ended up running the hub for Northwest for about 30 years in Memphis. And so kind of landed there going into high school. And I met the guys in the band probably when I was in like 11th grade, I think. And the bass player and I went to the same high school. He was a couple years ahead of me. So it must have been like 10th grade. He was a senior and I was in 10th grade, I guess, and going into 11th. And then the other two guys went to another high school, Germantown in Memphis. So they were a little bit ahead of me. I thought they were seasoned veterans, man. When I first met them, they had been in a recording studio. They were playing some gigs around town, and
Yeah.
I was just in like a little local, community band doing, uh, you know, talent shows and things like that. And so it was really fun to meet them and kind of get started. And then, years later, I ended up migrating up this way and getting involved in the actual business side of the music industry, working at record labels, music publishing. Ended up being a teacher.
So
So that was
how
pretty
is
fun.
that now getting to like put forward what you've learned through years in the business. Like, what kind of advice do you give to the younger people?
Well, I feel like I've lived in two universes because how I came up is a totally different world than where you guys are. And but I'm super excited for everybody, anybody that wants to get involved in the entertainment industry. I mean, we're at a place with technology and resources that we've never been, and your generation is going to change the world, man. I already know that. I mean, I
I'll
see all
try.
the potential. You guys are going to do it. I already know this. I see all y'all's potential. We kind of grew up with only a few outlets that were kind of controlled by gatekeepers, radio and MTV and things like that to get out to mass audiences. And you guys can do that, in a touch of a button. You're a 365 days a year, 24 hours a day storefront, and you just have to gather customers, fans or investors or whatever you want to call them, and to get people on board with you to get in to be a part of your story, which is super exciting. I mean, there's so many talented people. And the technology side of it is kind of a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because we are able, anybody can do it, but the curse is anybody can do it.
Anybody can
So how
do
do
it.
we
Yeah.
get somebody to pay attention? So we're just fighting over everybody's time. Time's our biggest asset. Uh, it's the most valuable thing for anybody if they're speaking your name, if it's rolling off their tongue, whether it's good or bad or whatever, if they're talking about you to somebody else, that's pretty amazing. So when I talk to people about the music industry now, I just get excited. I just tell them to be excited and to research continually because it changes every day. I could talk to you today, and then by the time I talk to you Wednesday, or if I see you at a show this weekend or something, it's a whole different world going on. There's companies closing, excuse me, and companies opening up new platforms, new apps. I think that's why I still love it. It's because it's exciting. It's changing all the time. You have to kind of stay invested in looking around and researching. And from a creative side, it's super exciting because of all the technology that you guys. I mean, we could cut a record on my phone now. If you have a kick-ass mic, you can put something together that's pretty amazing and sounds pretty awesome. And but I don't know, man. I see this industry from a lot of as when you were asking me how did I talk to the kids, I relate to them first as a creative person. I never thought I'd be a teacher. I actually left high school to do rock and roll, so I
It
never
worked
thought. I
out.
literally ran away from school. I didn't want to be there. I was scared I was going to miss something. And we had some traction in Memphis. There were local DJs that were playing locals only music. There were venues that were letting us play original music. And it was kind of like an overflow, I guess, from the East and West Coast had kind of hit Memphis, where a lot of bands were exploding on the scene, and there was lots of musical heritage in Memphis, tons of studios, tons of people that had experience in the industry. So we kind of were lining up just right at the right time when we came along, where there was a lot of activity in Memphis, and so there was producer showcases. There's lots of record reps that were coming through, and all kind of industry people from performing rights organizations and publishing companies and all that were visiting town all the time. So that part was exciting. So I don't know if I'm talking to people nowadays, you control everything. You're powerful. You can do everything yourself. The only thing that you run into controlling everything yourself is time management and quality control.
Yeah.
Those are the two things that could suffer. They don't necessarily have to. You may be very good at uh, juggling a bunch of things, but it feels like from a creative mindset, we get really uh, hyper focused on certain areas, and you may be missing things around you, opportunities and things like that. So it takes a village at some point, depending on how much momentum you get up, and then you have to be willing to concede over some kind of control of your
Yeah.
livelihood to somebody, which is like, we all have that kind of death grip because we know ourselves the best and we trust ourselves and everything. So to concede over some kind of control of your career is a big trust issue. It's like that's a something that you hand somebody and you go, I'm never going to think about this again. If you take control of helping me get shows or helping me get organized or whatever it is, then you're going to focus on that. And I'm going to get over here and get creative for a minute. And I'm going to trust you that you're going to give me the best opportunity to be successful. So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to go into that whole conversation, but it's exciting to
No,
me
no.
because I'm excited for everybody that wants to do it. Music industry has given me so many incredible experiences and opportunities. I met so many different characters and had all these crazy, roller coaster rides around being involved in it. And I just get excited. If somebody wants to do it, I want to encourage them, and try to help them. I can give one perspective. Really, it's such an individualized industry based on what resources you have available. Everybody kind of starts different. And some people have financial backing. Some people have people that have experience that can give them advice and all that kind of stuff. Some people don't have any of that and they're green as a gourd and don't know what's going on and how do I tackle this? And it's all different. So you have to talk to as many people as you can. The
Yeah.
networking aspect of it is hugely important because you can talk to 10 different people and they may have all 10 of them may have a different idea how to approach whatever the idea or concept is that you're wanting to tackle as from a business standpoint. And you can hear all those different perspectives and then pick the one that suits you, and that's super important, to kind of figure out the way your path is going to work. So it's
Can,
pretty
can I just
cool.
can I just say what you've said is very true about giving over control too, because that's something that I've noticed with like what I do. I'll message people who I like kind of look up to with interviews, and I'll be like, "Hey, what software do you use to make your thumbnail?" Or like, "What kind of camera do you use?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't do that. My editor does this for the thumbnail though, and like my videographer." And I'm like, I just do it all myself. I don't want to let anybody
Yeah,
else touch. I don't want anyone to touch my baby.
right.
But I'm sure I'll get to a point where I, like you said, have to kind of give over control. And I'm sure that's
Yeah,
tough. How was that for you when you were starting out, when you started to like give people, like you got managers and like you got labels and stuff? How was that for you?
it was hard. It's really hard, and I've kind of been on both sides of that. I've been the artist, the brand new person, and then I've had some experiences and been at labels or even in like a independent contracting kind of position where I was helping somebody get organized with their career. So I was talking to them from the other perspective, and it's really hard. You have to go. I know this sounds crazy, but you got to kind of go your gut, sometimes, and people are giving you advice, and there's a reason that you get that kind of weird feeling in yourself. And
Yeah.
sometimes we're fighting it because it's a growth moment, and it's where you're taking on somebody else's perspective and things, and you go, okay, man, I know what I want to do, but maybe this person, is has qualified themselves or has credibility that they can show me that they've done this with other people to where I have to take this under consideration that this person's totally not just coming out of left field. They're really trying to give you good advice. And we fought it at the very beginning for sure. We were just a garage band. We ended up working in a studio in Memphis. If any of your listeners have ever heard of Ardent Studios, or if you haven't heard of Ardent Studios, please look it up. It was a really famous studio in Memphis. And the producers there, we had won a contest as Tora Tora and went in. We were working on an EP. And so we were going to record some of our songs there with them. And one of the engineers happened to work with us and just said, man, he felt like he heard something. He said, I want to talk to the company and see if we could do a production deal, which meant they would upfront the cost for the recordings and then shop us to record labels. And we didn't really know what that meant. We were like, does it mean we can come in here and like record songs and stuff with you? And he was like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're going to really focus, not just do a day session or whatever it was that we were in there to do. He said, we're going to like really work the songs up and spend time getting the sounds and make sure it's quality recording and all that kind of stuff. And they kind of just started us out, and we had to take advice from them because they were a few waves ahead of us. The owner of the studio, John Fry, uh, was he was a entrepreneur. He was really big about education, and he was really huge on technology. When he started out for Ardent, he started out in his family home. They didn't have technology like you guys have now. If they wanted some piece of equipment or something to sound a certain way, they had to like build it. So he
Yeah.
kind of came up from that side of it, from the analog side of everything. But he also was very savvy and smart as a young person. Stax Records, which I don't know if your listeners again have heard of Stax, but it was a huge record label out of Memphis. Everybody from Otis Redding and Carla Thomas, Rufus Thomas, um, William Bell, all these great soul singers. It was the largest black owned and operated business in the United States when it
Wow.
was coming along. And they were just pumping out, Isaac Hayes and all these guys. He won an Oscar for Shaft, the music for that. But anyway, John was paying attention and he bought the same equipment that Stax had as a little young guy, kind of like your age. He bought the same equipment. So Stax had overflow and those guys would come over and use his spot to do their recordings and stuff when the studios were busy. And so it was a bunch of little young guys like you, and those producers were walking in going, "Hey, this is how we mic the guitar amp to get that sound on Otis Redding's song, or this is how we got that drum sound." They were showing him the miking techniques and stuff like that. So he was learning, and he had a peer group that were young guys like him that were looking at these older producers. So he very early on had this pass it on mentality. It was given to him, and then he felt like he wanted to do that with other people all the time, to help them. And so he also did that with us as a band. We met him years later. He had engineered a band called Big Star. I don't know if y'all have listened to them, Big Star, before, but you should look them up. His recordings are pristine. They were chasing, George Martin and the Beatles and everybody. They wanted to have immaculate recording and stuff. And so he was doing that kind of stuff. So from a technology side and an engineering side, he was in that mindset. But he also became a businessman because he started the studio, he started a record label. By the time we met him, he was getting into video production. So he had his own video in-house production stuff. And but he became a father figure to my band. And he passed every decision I ever made from the time I was about 16. I always talked to him, no matter what kind of thousand fires he had going on. If I'd call him, he would say, "Let's stop for like 10 minutes and let's just talk through what are you trying to do?" And I'd go, "Well, I'm being a singer and I'm going to work at a record label and I'm going to be in music publishing. And now I want to try to be a teacher." And we would talk through it every time. He would always take a few minutes with me. So he was just had a huge impact on my life. I mean, I owe him a lot. And he helped me multiple times, not only just be an artist, but when I decided to switch gears and kind of come off the road, he wrote letters of recommendation to get me into college. And
Wow.
that was something that I never saw coming in a million years that I would do.
Yeah.
But he and my first manager both wrote letters based on my life experience to help me get into school so I could go in. I went in and got my bachelor's and my master's. That was based on the entertainment industry, so business and communication aspects of the industry. So it was awesome. And our relationship changed as I grew older. Excuse me, 1 second.
You're
Sorry
good.
about that. But it was just awesome, And he was the guy that kind of once we got some record industry interest, we went into his office, man, and he drew like a circle on the wall and he put a dot in the middle and he goes, "The dot is you, and this is everybody's gonna be digging in your pocket." And we went, "Great, where do we sign up? Can we make records and go on the road and all that kind of stuff?" And he was like, "You really got to sit down and pay attention to this." So he was trying to give us good guidance. And
Yeah.
of course, as things started happening, we were getting attorneys and all that. But that was kind of a long, sorry, wandered off in the woods with you about your question about how
No,
was
you're
it
good.
given over control. But we really were unaware of how the landscape of the industry was or how to navigate any of that kind of stuff. So we were very lucky that we had a couple of people around us that had already kind of been down through it
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
And he was super important. And there was moments when we wondered if we were like, is this the right, decision? Is this the right advice and all that? I mean, I think that's just normal. You're kind of skeptical at the beginning, but in the end, his interest was he saw a financial benefit out of working with us.
Yeah.
And he was trying to give us guidance to say, "Hey, this is going to benefit everybody. You're going to kind of get the thing you want to do, and this is going to help me with on the backside of helping you. I'm going to be able to make financial gain off this." So it was awesome, and we talked about that a lot as I got older and stuff. We always had conversations about how the record deals went down and the people we worked with and all that stuff. And um, I just always felt like I was indebted to him because he gave us
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
incredible opportunity.
So now we're gonna jump back to the acoustic shows. You gave away a lot of stuff about Tony's set. Didn't really mention about yours though. So what do we got from you? What do we got from you? Is it strictly Tora Tora, or are you also just throwing in some surprises, just having fun with it, doing whatever you want?
There's a lot of kind of changing around. I like it. I have a lot of solo stuff.
Yeah.
The band has been um, we've all been active throughout, the whole time with Tora Tora, but we kind of would pull back individually based on we've always been kind of a family first band. We've known each other, like I told you, since we were little kids, since we were in high school. So we've been on the top of the mountain, having those really hallelujah, moments. And then we've been down in the deep dark valley sometimes where you felt like you were kind of by yourself. And any any job or career, industry or whatever is kind of has the peaks and valleys kind of thing. But it's the same four guys. It's the four original dudes, and we were always wanting to be creative. Everybody in the band, we were always working on stuff. So through the years, I've kind of collected things that I've done that were more kind of acoustic oriented. It's really funny. When I met the band, previous to us getting together, they had a band that was super heavy. It was like a double guitar, like Judas Priest or Iron Maiden kind of vibe. It was called Lycanthrope. It was real heavy. And then when we got together, it kind of transitioned. Um, I went over and I thought I was going to make a really great impression. I took my acoustic guitar, excuse me, it's still here in the house, the same one that I had. And I was like, I'm going to just be like a crooner. I'm going to go in here and just knock their socks off for this audition. And the bass player had seen me out at the mall, one day and said, "Do you want to come by and do a tryout?" And I was like, "Okay." And so
Yeah.
I was thinking about it, and I went in, and so I was thinking I was going to sing like something like Desperado or something by the Eagles, and sit down and have one of these like moments or something. I got like halfway into starting the song, and they go, "That's cool, man. You know any Cheap Trick or Aerosmith or 2112 by Rush?" They immediately were just like, "Let's just rock out."
Yeah.
So there was kind of this thing at the very beginning where I was kind of more of acoustic-y, like hippie person. I was way into Zeppelin, Janis Joplin, all that kind of stuff. And Keith was super heavy. He loved Randy Rhoads. Like I said, he liked the Iron Maiden stuff, Judas Priest. He loved Zeppelin, Aerosmith. We loved all the classic rock stuff. And so he and I, that was kind of a rub that we kept. Like as we started working together and all that, as we went through, I would a lot of times write on acoustic and then bring it in, and Keith would kind of shift it up, the
Yeah.
riffs and stuff into something that was more kind of rock and roll. So what's fun about these acoustic shows is I get to do some deep dives. I pull out some songs that they may not hear because when the tour guys want to do it, they want to turn the amp up and let's jam and rock out. And so these I can kind of pull back and do some different arrangements on some of those songs that were out that people are familiar with, and then do grab some that maybe they're not so familiar with, show some of the other sides of my writing.
Yeah.
And it's real fun. I got Ben playing percussion with me. Ben and
Hi,
Don, that
Ben.
y'all are real good friends. Hey, Ben. And so it's fun, man. He brings the djembe and the cajon, and I get to play some, and it's more kind of like a storyteller's thing. I get to talk about some of the people behind the scenes that helped on the songs because, like I said
Yeah.
at the beginning, we were really protective as a little unit. We were a garage band, and we came in, and when people started talking about co-writes and stuff, it really freaked you out because you're like, wait a minute, this is some person that doesn't even know us, and they're gonna like come in and show up and try to write a song, and they don't even know who we are. And we didn't
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
of it as like, hey, this is like a real skill set and a real craft songwriting. We were just thinking, hey, this is kind of how we do it. And excuse me,
No worries.
excuse me. And so, looking back on it, I think that we didn't have a lot of confidence. I think that's what it was. We were scared to do it because we weren't sure of what we were doing. We were still trying to figure it out. And then once we did it, it just was awesome. It was so fun because you learn so much about the process, the creative process from other people. I would encourage anybody listening right now that if you're creative and stuff, work and collaborate with as many people as you can. It teaches you so much about their process, but it also teaches you about yourself. like how you approach it,
Yeah.
the things that you have strengths at, and you immediately see the areas that you're weak in, that you go, wow, this is something that I could really start working on. So that part of it means that you're always learning. You keep learning, man. I really got my eyes open when I moved up here. I worked on the record label side for RCA and Sony. That was more kind of corporate artist development marketing kind of jobs. But then I moved out into publishing where I was back in the creative world again. And I remember a guy came in. He was close to my age. He had had two record deals. Killer singer. He was a real kind of Texas swing, really opposite kind of musical genre and style and everything to me. But he was just super talented, and he wrote the most beautiful love songs I'd ever heard in my life. I was like, this guy's an incredible writer. Oh my God, And we talked when he first got there. He didn't know me, and I didn't know him, and we kind of had similar backgrounds with the record deals and all that kind of stuff. And I heard him tuning up one day, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, does anybody ever talk to you about the craft of writing?" And he goes, "No, man. Somebody just walks in here and they throw out a line, and we just dive into whatever this young guy's doing or whatever." And I
Yeah.
said, I want to go to lunch with you. Can I take you to lunch and talk to you about it?" And it's really that 10,000 hours. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Putting in your 10,000 hours, the Malcolm Gladwell thing. He literally was coming from that place. He said, I've done it so much. He said, when people come in to write songs with me, it's almost like a blueprint of a house rolls out in front of me. He goes, I know where the kitchen's going. I know where the bathroom's going to be sitting. I know how to walk through that. He goes, that's how
Yeah.
well I know this.
Yeah. It's like
And he
second
said,
nature, kind of.
yeah. And he said, I actually may even have a line that's been laying around forever that I've been hanging on to that matches up with this idea to just get the co-write started. And I just loved it because it's like I said to you before, everybody kind of comes at it a different way. And talking to him, just reinforced that to me, that it's something that you just continually work on. I mean, I literally said, I want to write a song with you. I couldn't at the time because it would have been a conflict of interest for me to be a general manager at a company and writing songs at the same time. But
Yeah.
I said, hey, I can do it outside of work. Can I get you to, sign some paperwork? I'll bring a contract to your house or whatever it is we're working on at work. And then I'll just have my guitar in the car and we can sit down and, trade riffs with each other. And we ended up writing, two or three songs together. It was so cool because it was just so different. It was just totally foreign to the concepts and ideas that I would add. And, you just keep growing. That's the thing. I love music, man, because you just keep trying things and experimenting and being creative. It just, that part, I think, for anybody listening, that's young getting into it, that doesn't go away. It gets stronger and it gets more powerful. The more waves you kind of get down the road, uh, it gets me really, really, really excited.
So you've been doing writing recently too. We've had a couple of singles released over the past couple of years, like Neptune Society and Go Where the Love Is.
Yeah,
Is this
yeah,
leading to a follow-up album to Bastards of Beale? Is this leading to something bigger?
yeah. We are, you know, we got a new collection of songs going. We started recording right out of COVID.
Yeah.
Um, it was maybe middle of 21. It was when people could start getting back together. And we went in and we cut like 12 tracks. And we were talking about the process when we went in before. We cut Bastards of Bill like almost live. We cut it at a place called Sam Phillips Recording Service. If you or your listeners aren't familiar with him, he's the guy that found like Howlin' Wolf, Jerry Lee Lewis, Roy Orbison, Johnny Cash, a guy named Elvis. Okay,
Someone, yeah.
he started Sun Records. When he sold Sun Records to RCA, he moved right down the street, the same street in Memphis. It's between Madison and Union's where Sun's sitting, and he went right down the street and he bought an auto garage and he stripped it all the way to the studs and he built his studio, this recording place. And he designed the echo chamber. I mean, the building is still decorated like 1960. I mean, it's got like the seafoam green walls and black and white checkered, floors with big old shag red carpet about that deep. I mean, it looks like he's fixing to walk in any second when you walk in there. And
Yeah.
everybody from Bob Dylan to Robert Plant, all these great people had recorded there. But when we went in, we were thinking about it, and it was our first new music in like 20 years. And we just said, man, let's just go in and just cut this thing and see what happens. And so the band was out in the room. They put me in an ISO booth and said, go for it. If you get it, awesome. But if you don't, we can come back and grab you. But we're just going to try to get the band. And it was so exciting, man. It was
Yeah.
so cool. But we really went through that in a fast process. I think we cut the whole record in about 8 days, I think. Um, so they did a couple of days of basic tracks, a couple of days of overdubs, and then I sang for a couple of days, and then we mixed it.
Wow.
And we were on a really limited budget. We were limited in time because I was traveling back and forth between Nashville and Memphis.
Yeah.
And so we thought about that when we went in the studio. That record came out in 2019. We cut it in 2018. And then, everybody was on pause through 2020 and then into 2021. And then we decided in the middle of 21, we said, let's get together. It had been about 14 months since the band had seen each other in person. So the very first thing we did was just hug each other and plug up and start jamming. I mean, it wasn't
Yeah.
even about this. We played old songs or new songs, or we didn't care. We're just like, let's just play. But as we were getting ready for that process of having that, we said, man, instead of rushing through the session, let's just give it to John and let him have the room, let him mess around with the snare sounds and different miking techniques and all that stuff. And then we'll cut the guitars and vocals, outside of this session. So, and we also started thinking about Bastards of Beale, where we said, we're not sure everybody heard the whole record. We had two sneak peek songs, Rose of Jericho and Silence the Sirens. And then we did a video that dropped the single and song Son of a Prodigal Son. And then we said, did anybody listen to the rest of the record? We knew people were asking us about the video, and it was the first
Yeah.
new video in a long time. And it kind of had a sentimental, nostalgic kind of vibe to it because the video was shot in the same room as our very first single, Walking Shoes. It was in the same
Yeah.
building on Beale Street in Memphis, a place called Handy Hall. And so people brought that up and talked, but we said, did they hear anything else? So we said, hey, on this next round, maybe we'll just let out singles, let them out one at a time, and just kind of let them lay there and breathe a little bit, kind of like opening a
Yeah.
bottle of wine. If they like it, cool. If they ignore it, no problem, man. We'll just work on the next one, and then we'll just stick one out. So I think we're headed towards a collection. We're getting close. Uh, I know that I have new recording sessions lined up with Keith. I'm going to be in Memphis doing that this year. I'm really focusing on being creative this year. I've been
Yeah.
talking. I kind of do these things online. I do some live things on Facebook and on my Instagram reels, and talk to the audience about. I think I'm at a place. I'm in a reflective kind of place. My children, I have three boys, have all grown up and they went to college. The youngest one went to college in the fall, so my house got really quiet.
Woo.
Yeah,
Class of
and I
26.
just said, man, I feel great. I've been in like a total tornado for like the past 20 years, just because we all, as a group and individually said we didn't want to miss something with our children growing up. I
Yeah.
know you can do the a music career and have children. I don't mean to knock that, but we just decided we said, hey, I want to kind of be around and
Yeah.
not travel that much. But 2019 was we were busier than we've been in 20 years. We went from Maine all the way to California, and I don't know, it was just something sparked in me again, and I just said, man, I just feel like I still have things I want to work on and be creative and think about, talk about, and so this year, I'm really going to try to work on that. Just I'm going to get out on the road, do these acoustic shows. We're going to be doing Tora shows for sure. We're going to do a new project while we're working on wrapping up these last songs. So I think it'll be a new collection. We the last couple that we did were pressed on vinyl. That we'll probably do some vinyl for this at some point.
Yeah.
Um, but we're interested. We're some people want you to do CDs and have booklets and all that kind of stuff. We're kind of interested. We're kind of doing this a little bit as a focus group with our audience to see just what they're interested in and what they like.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're trying to let them be a part of what's going on. They're hearing the songs. I've shared a couple of my acoustic things with them behind the scenes, of just solo work that I've done. That just says, hey, here's something that got a good response on the live thing that I did. Maybe I could share this with a few people on the mailing list and see what y'all think about it. And
Yeah.
I don't know. We're still crazy about it, but yeah, eventually I think it'll get to that point. I think we're about 5 songs in right now, and I know I'm recording two new ones. So I mean, we're only a couple of songs away from having a full project. So we'll
Yeah.
probably end up putting a collection together of that.
And so one way that you can kind of be creative. You might not get to play all these songs live normally because you can't play for 4 hours, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But you guys have the Monsters of Rock cruise coming up, which you're on. You have two different sets. So are you gonna do like two totally different sets? Are you guys talking about that on the cruise?
Yeah, this is funny you brought that up. We were talking about that, pulling out some of the songs that have kind of been pushed on the back burner. It's hard doing sets and stuff because we all have like our favorites that we want to do and try.
Yeah,
And then, of course, there's certain songs that the audience is like, you got to play this song or we're going to be, disappointed. That's kind of the point of us
it's
being
gonna be a
here. So,
riot.
yeah, well, there's just some of them that, like, especially where we are,
Yeah,
we hadn't played it for through the years, we haven't played a lot. We play a lot, in the past couple of years or whatever. But some people come out and they want to hear like Walking Shoes, the first single, or they want to hear Phantom Rider that was off the first record. And it was things that just they're very familiar with. So we talk about that a lot. But yeah, I think there'll be a couple. We love the Monsters Rock Cruise. Anybody's watching this, if you've never done it, it is so incredible. It's so fun.
yes, it is. It's
It's
very fun.
it's crazy. It is like there's all these activities. There's drinking together with the everybody on the boats making drinks together,
I'm not
or
allowed to
you're
do
doing
that yet.
some kind of karaoke night. They're
That I
sitting
can do.
in with a band. I think they have bands nights where you could get up. Some of the musicians get up and jam with you and things like that. So
Yeah,
we loved it. We had never done it. We did it in 2017 was the first one that we were invited on, and our bass player had kind of a health scare. He was
yeah,
diagnosed with cancer. And the amazing thing was he went to the doctor for something else, and it was a super aggressive cancer, and they found it right at the very beginning. They said, "Man, it is
yeah,
tiny. We're going to grab this, and then you're going to make a full recovery." And as soon as he got the green light, he just said, "I want to go play. I don't care if it's five people or 50 or 500 or 5,000 or 50,000. Let's just go jam." And the Monsters of Rock had been talking to us, and we said, "Okay, great. We're going to go do the Monsters of Rock. Let's do this." And man, it was the wildest experience. It was so fun. I'm not kidding. We got on there. We
yeah.
saw so many great bands that we were fans of. Everybody from Kicks to Tesla, Extreme. Um, we saw King's X, and some of these guys we had toured with a long time ago. So it was really great for us just to get to see them, and you actually have a
Yeah.
minute on the boat to like see each other and visit and talk. And so it's amazing. I think it normally it's about 30 bands or something on there. It's 5 days out on the water, and
Yeah.
it's activities from first thing in the morning all the way to over in after midnight. In the casino or whatever. So things are going crazy. So it's a great experience. It's really awesome. So we did 2017, 2019. This will be our third one. So we're excited about that. And Larry and them always do a great job of just making a really great experience for the bands and the people that are on there for the cruise. It's awesome. It's really good.
And you can bring your kids as somebody who was on it last year. There is stuff for you to do. And I'm
Yeah, they're
going
gonna get an
back.
eyeful on that thing. That's pretty crazy.
Oh, I've seen some stuff. I I am a changed person after coming off of that boat. But but
It
it's all for the better.
is funny. Yes, it is. It's good, man. It's a really cool experience. It's awesome.
So other than the cruise, right now, at least announced there's no other Tora Tora shows that I
Yeah,
saw.
I think we have one coming up in Memphis. We're looking at
Okay.
middle of April, right before we go out on the cruise. We'll probably do that. And it's been about 3 years since we've been at home. So if you've
Yeah.
never seen us, it's always a good time to come and see us in Memphis because that's where we got launched out of.
Yeah.
When we look in the audience, I can like look everybody in the eye, and I say that all night with everybody in that audience. I'm like, man, we had some crazy partying days together. And we're indebted to those guys. They're the reason that we got to do it. They were the people calling the radio station, locally when we
Yeah.
first started. They were the people that called MTV when you could call into MTV and ask for videos. And they support us through all the years. They show up when we say we're going to do something. It's always a big blowout when we go on. So we love going there. We played the Memphis in May Festival last year, which is associated with the Barbecue Festival. If you've never done that, you should go down and do that. It's a great time. It's in the beginning of May is when the Beale Street Music Festival happens, and then Barbecue Fest lasts all through the month. It's going on a couple weeks in. um, through it. And but that's of a festival. So the one coming up will be our first one since 2019. So it's going to be we're kind of due to play. We've been looking for the right timing and the right spot, and I think it's all kind of lined up now. But as soon as we confirm it, we'll let it out. I mean, we're
Yeah.
this close. We're very close to this.
So is there any talks? It's probably difficult because you all are involved in other projects too, but like, you guys are part of some great tours like Sonic Temple with the Colton Bonham. Is there any talk of like another tour, just a full-fledged tour at some point?
Not all the way. We three of us have all of our children kind of up and out. One of our
Yeah.
bandmates still has a couple people that are active, and so we're kind of doing the weekend warrior stuff right now. But
Yeah.
eventually, I think we'd get to a point where we might do some runs. Mostly, what we're doing is kind of fly out dates and quick, weekend runs and things like that. But it's a different world now. It's hard, man. Traveling's expensive. We would love to
Yeah.
go to do stuff in Europe. That's one thing that we've never done as a band. We did the whole promo tour for it and everything years back when our record was getting released. And unfortunately, our drummer fell off a mountain bike and broke his arm, and so we had to find a replacement for him and work in a new drummer. And then we ended up coming back to the States, and ended up in Hawaii or something and started touring
Yeah.
North America again. So the guitar player and I have done dates and stuff over there, but we've never done it with a band. So that's kind of I guess one of those bucket list kind of things is we'd love to go over to Europe and play to some of those fans that we never got to play to. So looking forward to that.
Is there any other goals that you're like to keep things fresh? Are there any other like goals you're kind of setting for yourself as stuff that you haven't done yet that you're hoping to accomplish in the next couple of years?
Man, just to keep growing, I really think I think that I have a small window of time right now that where my life is just had this moment, man, not to get heavy or something, but it's just
Yeah.
I know that I feel good. I'm rested up. I haven't been around for the past 20 years. I feel rested and I feel good. So there's a small window of time that I have to get out and get in front of people. So that's my main goal is what I was telling you earlier, kind of starting out this year is I just want to get a little bit more active where I'm out and engaged with the audience. I love being live, man. There's something about just the energy of being in a room with people. Um, I love doing this and having Zoom and technology is amazing. And we have all kind of conversations and research and studying about, our Fortnite concerts and being on Twitch and all that stuff. I love that, and none of that's ever going away. But I like being there in person, man. I like looking at the
Yeah.
people. I like feeling the energy. There's just something about it. Even if you just vision yourself, man, at a concert and you're there with your favorite artist playing, and there's some person you've never met before standing next to you and you're
Yeah.
spilling your drink all over each other and you're singing to each other and you're hugging each other. I mean, music is so powerful, man. It's like the most powerful force, man. And it just brings people together. And I think that was one thing about COVID for all of us that we realized that we kind of need each other, and
Yeah.
we're social and we need to be engaged with each other and all that. So I think maybe, and this may just be me talking because maybe we're still coming out of a hangover of COVID, but I just was like, man, I just want to get out and get in front of people, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I think the biggest goal for me is just to keep challenging myself, man, musically, to keep growing, experimenting and playing and trying things and getting better at the craft. I think I've got a little frozen moment here in time where I can kind of just focus on music and stuff. So I want to try and take advantage of that for a minute.
Yeah. There's no better time. And that is, I think, a perfect way to leave things. Is there anything else we haven't covered? Absolutely feel free to let me know. But
No, that's perfect, man. Just if anybody would like to keep up with us, just jump on Tora Tora Band. You can find us on any of the social media platforms. Go to toratoramusic.com.
yep.
We'd love for you to sign up to our mailing list. There's a opportunity for you to do that on the landing page, and you'll get all the latest updates and get access to some sneak peeks of our music and all that kind of stuff. So we'd love for y'all to do that.
And again, if you for some reason haven't bought tickets, if you live near Cincinnati, Richmond, or Braidwood, the links are in the description. You have no excuse. If you like traveling, travel. You got a weekend free to do whatever. So go to the description, buy the tickets for the upcoming acoustic shows with Anthony Corder and Tony Harnell. Anthony, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I hope you kill it at those shows, sir.
Thanks, Sam, for having me and giving me an opportunity and a platform. I really appreciate it.